Now, our feature for the show today, President Muhammadu Buhari says Nigeria's revenues and foreign exchange earnings have fallen by almost 60% since the outbreak of the coronavirus, with the pandemic ravaging the country. The president attributes the decline to poor fortunes of the oil sector, revenues and foreign exchange earnings, which have fallen drastically. He further says that though the pandemic forced many economies across the world to shut down, his administration has adopted a 2.3 trillion naira economic sustainability plan to help mitigate the effect of the dwindling economy. Now, the economic plan is expected to enhance local production, support businesses, retain and also create jobs, as well as provide succor to Nigerians. Joining me now for more on this discussion in our Lagos studio, I have economist Mayokun Ilo. Good to have you on the Breakfast Show today.
Yeah, thank you, David, for having me.
Now, what do you make of this report from the presidency vis-a-vis the reports we've had from revenue-generating agencies that have met and even surpassed their target? Take, for example, the Nigerian Customs Service. Look at Apapa Command, which their revenue rose about 10.59%. On a look at Tinkan as well. And even you look at the generation capacity that the FRS has also had due to the intensified collection methods. How do we marry these two conflicting reports?
Well, thank you, David. I think the solution is in the exchange rate. In nominal terms, there's been an increase in collection by the relevant agencies in the country. But if you put it in real terms, in dollar terms, you now find out that even though we have more naira in our pocket, it's not really translating into purchasing power for the government and even for the people. So that's where the problem is. The government is seeing more money in terms of naira, but the things they want to do, and because we have an economy that is tied to the dollar too much, if I may say, that is why they're having that problem. If government looks at the economy holistically, pays more attention to exchange rate issues, among other things, unemployment, productivity within the local economy, I'm sure we will see a meeting of points in this issue.
And do you think there's any way forward out of this drop? Do you think in the next forecast we'll see a greater decline in the revenue generation that the government is predicting?
It may not be a greater decline, but it's still a decline all the same. Even the government is aware that the recession is not going away anytime soon. Nigeria is a country that does a lot of imports of the things we actually should be producing in this country and even exporting. So until we find a way to make sure that all these things match, then I'm sure the problem is not going away soon.
Like you rightly said, Nigeria still remains a highly consumptive nation. We're yet to produce as much to be able to fund and also fuel the naira to take a stronger stance. But let's now look at issues of non-remittance of funds. Now, the oversight function to checkmate this menace is a little bit faulty. Look at, for example, 1.2 trillion naira unpaid by ministries, departments and agencies of government.
Well, let me say this. When Obasanjo was in office, he brought this policy document they called NEET, National Economic Empowerment and Development Strategy. At the end of the day, the point was to liberalize, privatize, commercialize, and all those things. The other two things that were included was transparency and accountability. Until we have those being championed by those in government, against looking for revenues here and there, I'm sure we are still having this problem.
And what do you make of our current model of revenue collection? At the end of the day, we are still at a basic level. Automation remains key. What's your word to that effect?
Well, it's a global problem, but people in other climes are finding solutions easily. I was looking through the economy of UK, I think yesterday. In a country like ours, we should already have smart cities. If you go to UK, for instance, if you are traveling either by rail or by transport, you can get a single card. You can pay one rate for a whole week or for a whole month, wherever you are going. Now they are increasing the price of petroleum products, and you look, you spend all your money maybe paying for transport within a city like Lagos. All these things are the things that take money away from people. Let me go to GDP. GDP per capita in Nigeria is about $3,900. For an average Lagosian, you spend about 40% of your earnings now paying for power, paying for fuel and all the rest of it. These are the things that take away money from the people. So if government is really serious about meeting all these things, they have to look at the issues that confound the country holistically. Look at the poor man as the centerpiece of your policies so that you can get a hang of it.
Now let's talk about our revenue collection mechanism, the model that Nigeria has adopted over the years. What do you make of the challenges we've had so far and the lessons that we ought to learn, especially as highlighted by the COVID-19 at this point in time?
Thank you. I think there's really no problem with the model, but the problem may be enforcement. Government needs to talk more to the MDAs in terms of what they are supposed to do per time. At the end of the day, whatever resources comes to the government should be remitted to the government as at when due. As at now, we are saying 1.2 trillion naira is still being expected. I think if they are doing 6 monthly remittances, they should go to quarterly. And if they've been on quarterly, then they should be considering monthly remittances or whatever accrues to the federal coffers on time.
Now, at this point in time as well, production levels are quite low, looking at the fact that the global economy is just gradually resuming and the impact of the COVID-19 still lingers on. But in terms of now strategic investment, interventions and much more, you see the president has already said there should be an immediate release of a 2.3 trillion naira stimulus intervention. At this point in time now, how are we expected to utilize this much more aggressively, or should I say strategically, in the key sectors of the economy, because we have to just produce much more to be able to have any sort of recovery and aid the naira?
I think if there's anything this pandemic has taught us is the fact that we should look more inward. Government has been too much outward facing in the recent past. We have to look at the average Nigerian now as the bedrock of government policy. How do you help the average Nigerian to produce, to export, to do things that will be good for the economy in both the short run and in the long run? Manufacturing sector is in decline. The reason maybe custom is making so much money is because almost everything now is being imported into the country. This is not good for us. We are losing foreign exchange at the cost of whatever it is that is coming to customs. Let us go for local production. Let us go for things that will benefit the local economy. Let us look for ways of empowering local contractors to build their skill set in a way that manufacturing become the hub. We can look at things we can export to, even to the sub-Saharan countries as a country for now. These are the things that will bring revenues to the country and ultimately help the economy itself to grow.
Now, if we were to take cues from the advanced climes now, take for example, it's expected by tomorrow the European Central Bank is going to take some much more aggressive stance on ensuring that there's liquidity in the system. You look at the move we've also seen from the US Federal Reserves as well, trying to manage inflation and also shift to a stronger recovery approach. Now, what should be the policy direction as well? You've made mention of boosting manufacturing, infrastructural development and much more. But at this point in time, our economic teams, all of the councils and advisories that we should have at this point in time, what should be the go-to plan?
Well, let me say the economy from my own perspective is too dollarized. There are still some, even estates in these Lagos that charge their rates by the dollar. These are not things that are good for our own local economy or for the value of our naira. In the past few months, the naira has steadily been declining. There was a respite, I think, last week. I transacted some amounts in euro in January. I think euro was like 409 naira to a euro. By June, the same transaction shot up to 565. How do you explain that in monetary terms?
But the past few weeks, we've seen a gradual recovery.
Well, there's been a gradual recovery, but I doubt if anything that goes up in Nigeria ever comes down in the long run. But that said, I think government has to, again, look at how to stabilize the currency. If you don't stabilize the currency, the government in the long run will be losing, the people in the short run will be losing. At the end of the day, if your people cannot afford to eat, if they cannot afford decent things of life, at the end of the day, you don't expect them to be loyal, or you don't expect them to be very productive. So government has its work cut out. Let them do whatever it needs to be done to make sure that the average Nigerian feels the impact of government in a positive way. And the living wage they are earning should actually be a living wage and should be enough to take care of their needs.
And like so many economic watchers say, the strength of your local currency is the strength of your economy. Hopefully, we see the Naira improve much more and the Nigerian economy also recover faster. Thank you very much for your contribution on The Breakfast Show today,
You're
Michael
welcome.
Ilo.
Thank you for having me.